And welcome everybody to another Mark Bishop show, only this time with video, and I've got a very special guest I want to introduce you today. You probably know the name, Frank King. Does that ring a bell? Frank King. Been around a long time, very long time in fact. 38 years, a comedian, a speaker, and I guess what? He was a writer for 20 odd years, writing for The Tonight Show, all right? So that's pretty cool. And Frank, well, he fought off a lifetime battle with depression and suicidality. It's a tough one, turning that long, dark journey of the soul into 12 TEDx talks, sharing his life-saving insights with his associates. And that's the idea of having Frank on today. Pretty sad with the numbers that are out there. So we've got a guest that can share not only his story, but how to help you, all right? He survived two, not one, but two aortic valve replacements, double bypass, a heart attack, and losing to a puppet. This was the hardest one on Star Search.
Yes.
Live to joke all about it. Frank King, welcome.
Thank you.
Really, really nice to have you, mate. You're here for a reason. I'm a great believer of that. Otherwise, the man upstairs would have taken you a long time ago.
Yeah, that's true. As I like to say, Mark, I'm living on borrowed time and upside down on the loan.
I was looking forward to this because I can do with a good laugh. I'll tell you now. Now, look, a comedian speaking on depression and suicide. How does that work?
Well, that's the elephant in the room every time I speak, and I address that first because that's what the audience is thinking. I think it makes sense. A couple of reasons. One, the world's first comedian, as you well know, was the court jester. Court jester's job, speak truth to power on behalf of the powerless with humor. I believe I speak truth to the power of mental illness on behalf of those often powerless in its grip with humor. I believe with this humor, there's hope. Where there's laughter, there's life, that nobody really dies laughing. And depression and suicide run in my family. My grandmother died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old. I screamed for days. And if you're already hardwired for what's called generational depression and suicide, and you're that close to an actual suicide, the chances of you seriously considering taking your life later in life go up. And in 2010, April, after filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy and losing everything, that's when I learned what the barrel of my gun tasted like.
Oh.
Spoiler alert, I did not pull the trigger. A friend of mine came up after a keynote recently, and he goes, "Hey, man, how come you didn't pull the trigger?" I said, "Hey, man, could you try to sound slightly less disappointed?" So that's where the humor is. Not jokes, just funny personal anecdotes. So that's how a comedian got to be speaking. People are like, "How'd you choose suicide as a topic?" The topic chose me. Yeah, there are more nuts in my family than in a squirrel turd.
Well, I mean, the finger points, Frank, at what do you call it? Genetics.
Yes, in my DNA. Fortunately, Mark, also comedy. Everybody in my family is pretty funny, and I've made my living doing stand-up for the last 38 years full time.
All right. Well, I was going to say, how did you get started in comedy anyway, Frank?
Fourth grade, told a joke. Kids laughed. Teacher was hysterical. She was so hysterical, she had to excuse herself and go to the teacher's lounge. I saw her years later. Mrs. Dark was her name. I saw her at the grocery store. She goes, "Frank," said, "You know why I excused myself?" I said, "No." She said, I was afraid I was going to laugh really hard in your face and break your heart, so I had to excuse myself to go to the teacher. It was the funniest thing a child ever said to me. So at that moment, Mark, in fourth grade, I decided I was going to be a stand-up comedian. And then in high school, we had a talent show. Nobody had ever done stand-up before.
Right.
It's 1975. I won. Of course, I beat the folk dancers and the accordion player.
Right. Usually it's an accordion or a clarinet or.
Yep. And I moved to Southern California. San Diego to this day, has a branch of the world famous Comedy Store. And I did my first 5 minutes, and halfway through my set, I heard a voice inside my head, "You're home." 18 months later, I said to my girlfriend, now my wife of 37 years, "I'm going on the road to do stand-up. Do you want to come along for the ride?" Figuring she'd go, "Oh, hell no." She goes, "Yeah." So we were on the road without a home for 2,629 nights in a row, nonstop, just club to club to club for 7 years.
And she went with you?
Yeah, she came along with the ride.
Not many do that, huh?
No. It's somebody said to me, one of my comic friends who hadn't seen me in a while, "You still married to Wendy? Who divorces a woman like that? Come on." And then 2012.
Backbone of your life, mate. And she goes on tour. Hey, Didn't cramp your style at all? I mean, 38 years. How long married? 37?
37 years, yeah.
37 years. There's a fair bit of loyalty built in there, right?
Yes, and then in 2012, I went from being a speaker who was funny to a funny speaker. That's when I started speaking on suicide prevention.
Right.
In 2014, I realized I need to prove to the world as a comic that I can do something serious. So I did my first TEDx, and that convinced everybody. And I've done 11 more. And then in 2018, I thought, you know what? I'm going to pick a lane. I'm just going to be a suicide prevention speaker. January 1st.
So is that when the penny, shall we say, actually dropped for you, that you had a cause,
Yep.
you had a reason, and you had a darn good topic that was pretty close to home?
Yes, and I'm a big believer. I coach speaking, how to make money speaking, and I spend a lot of time getting my clients to pick a lane to speak in, become the expert or thought leader. What happened was, Mark, I was working on a ship. I did stand-up comedy on ships for 13 years, off and on. And I was thinking about two of the businesses in my hometown that are very successful. One is a guy who owns 3 radio stations. The other is an auto body shop, both very successful. And I'm thinking to myself, what do they have in common? And then it hit me. They do one thing and they do it extremely well. I mean, they're the expert or thought leader in their business. That's how I thought, okay, I'm in. I'm just going to speak on suicide prevention. And then I had to figure out, I didn't want to market to everybody because not every industry has that problem. So I picked a half a dozen of the top 10 at-risk occupations for suicide. And those are the only people I market to.
Well, I'm putting the links on my site on markbishopmedia.com and also on the YouTube channel. And I'm also embedding one of your TEDx talks.
Oh, thanks.
Because I think it might be difficult for people to, how on earth can he do comedy? And we're talking about such a deadly and sad, topic. I mean, you live with 2. This is you now. You live with 2 mental illnesses.
Yep.
That's amazing. And what are they, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, no. One's called major depressive disorder. It's relatively common. People just refer to it as depression. The other one's rare. It's called chronic suicidal ideation. I've mentioned that out loud to 20, therapists, been in the business 20 years, and they stare at me like a pig at a wristwatch. They have no idea what I'm talking about. What it is people like me, suicide is always an option on the menu as a solution for problems large and small. And the story I tell in my speech is, a couple of years ago, my car broke down. I had 3 thoughts. 1, get it fixed. 2, buy new. And 3, I could just kill myself. That's chronic suicidal ideation. And the upside of telling that story is almost every time I've spoken, there's been at least one person in the audience who has that. Mm-hmm. And invariably, they don't know it has a name. They think they're just some kind of freak and all alone. I had a young woman come up after a college show, thank me for the keynote. I said, you're welcome. She goes, but I got to tell you, it made me weep. How did it make you weep? She said, your story about the car, get it fixed, buy new, and kill yourself. I've been having those thoughts all my life. I didn't know that had a name. I thought I was just some kind of freak and completely alone. And then I heard you say you have it. And I realized the first time in my life that I'm not alone. And I wept. So that's the ROI.
All right. You are businesses and corporations your main target to help, or do you do work for the vets as well?
Actually, associations. Because then the room is full of corporations with the same issue.
Right. Okay.
I've done a few things for the veterans, but they are generally a nonprofit and oftentimes don't have my fee. I've done some for active duty. I did 4 bases last year.
Wow.
But on one base, I did 3 keynotes to make, so they could justify the fee.
Right.
And in Houston, Texas, I played 3 different bases in one day again, so they could justify my fee.
Right.
So veterans in the U.S., 22 a day die by suicide. So they have a really serious. Yeah, I wish the government would spend more looking after their veterans.
Oh, well, it's just not there, is it now? Superpowers. I want to talk about that. You say that your mental illnesses that we just talked about give you something akin to superpowers. What superpowers?
I believe my depression and thoughts of suicide are simply the flip side of my creativity, imagination, and comic ability. I tell people, look, I can teach you to write comedy. I can teach you to perform it. I cannot teach you to process the incoming information the way my brain does. I mean, I've been heckled, and I fire back, and people say, "How did you think up that heckler response?" And honestly, I didn't think it. A young woman was being thrown out of a club one night, and she's drunk, and she's headed toward the door. They're escorting her out.
Right.
And she starts turning back to me. I'm guessing she heard something that sounded like her name because drunks are voice activated. And she screamed, "F you," at me so everybody could hear it.
Right.
And before, I didn't think this. I just said it, not even for practice, and got standing ovation. And people came, "But how'd you think that up?" I didn't think it up. When you heard it, I heard it for the first time. I have no idea where that came from.
Right.
So it's that creativity.
That's an art, no matter what they throw at you. I don't mean literally either, figuratively. There's no tomatoes in this case, but words can be quite hurtful. And to be able to shell it off, just, as you say, superpowers. That makes sense now. What would you say was your very best comedy gig?
I opened for two of them, actually. I opened 2 nights at the Hotel del Coronado for the singer, now deceased, Lou Rawls.
Oh, was he really? Of course. A few years back. He had a beautiful voice.
You'll never find another love like mine. And I did 2 shows at an amphitheater in Michigan, 5,000 people a night, open for a country singer named Randy Travis.
Uh-huh.
I would say that's probably the top 2, 5,000 people. That's a lot of eyeballs.
That's not a bad audience, my friend, Ryan. So comedy before the music show. Yeah. And was it still on the topic of suicide?
Oh, no. It's just like on the ships, I just do stand-up, just straight, no speaking, no content, no takeaways.
So they're different again. So then you just do straight comedy. Yeah. It's not an easy life, is it, a stand-up?
The hard part is not making them laugh. The hard part's getting the gig. I tell people, they say, well, describe your business, speaking or comedy. 85% of my time I spend sales and marketing, 5% writing, 5% performing, 5% traveling.
Right.
So, I'm really not a speaker. I'm a salesperson who speaks. It's
been one of my hidden secrets of wanting to do stand-up. But being Australian, it needs a good writer to really make it interwoven, into American to be understood. It's all very well, that's not a knife, this is a knife. But there's a lot more than that around. So the reality is, sorry?
I'm on the ships because I worked all over the world with a wide variety of audiences from a wide variety of places. A lot of comedians make the mistake of doing their American act when only 25% of the people on the ship are American. So I tell the audience right up front, look, I'm going to do my best to make sure that my act is not prototypically American. If I'm going to talk about something that's, that's only in America, I'm going to explain it first, and then I'm going to tell you the joke. And they applaud that because, they're so used to comics just coming on and doing their off the shelf.
I asked you which was your best. Now, so let's be honest, and you're an honest fella. What was your worst?
Kingsport, Tennessee. I'm not saying everybody in Kingsport, Tennessee is a Bible-thumping, race-baiting, homophobic redneck who thinks the Holocaust is fake and wrestling is real. Just the people who came to my show. They
don't shoot the messenger, all right?
Well, funny you say that. They liked the guy before me very much. His name was Pat Miller, a big guy, 3 feet wide, 3 feet tall, 300 pounds. They loved him to death. He's walking across the platform they had built for the comics to perform on, and a board snapped under his foot, and you could hear it all over the house. And he turns to the audience, best ad lib I've ever heard. He goes, "Nobody panic. It's just a stage I'm going through."
Oh.
So I couldn't follow it. And about 10 minutes into my show, I look down, and the hand of the guy in the second row is over the shoulder of the guy in the front row with a nickel-plated .38 with a hammer back. So I turned sideways to make a smaller target, lowered my elbow to cover my vital organs, and just waited. And finally, a woman in the back screamed, "Either shoot him or put it away." That was probably my worst show.
All right, so that was your worst. By the way, I'm showing a number, the business number for people to contact you should they want to. That's 858-405-5653 for Frank King.
I give that out every.
Why would they contact you, Frank? You're teaching what again?
I coach landing and leveraging at TEDx. I coach make money speaking, cruises, colleges, corporations, associations. And I put that number on the screen every time I speak on suicide prevention. And I tell the audience, look, if you're suicidal, call the hotline. If you're just having a bad day, call the crazy person. Here's my cell. And every now and then somebody will call, either a question for themselves or somebody they care about. You know.
That's good. And they can also email you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes people don't want to, but being able to email is good. And that's very simple. Frank, thementalhealthcomedian.com. Is that what you booked under, by the way?
No,
Mental Health Comedian.
thementalhealthcomedian.com. And my LinkedIn profile. I've got a big presence on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Frank King Comedian.
Were you really on the road? I can't get over this. Without a home. Because people, when you travel, you see the old movies, the bands used to pile into the buses.
Yeah.
Betty Goodman story or something like that, right? They're all into the buses off to the next city, into a hotel, play, get up again, go again.
Go again.
A hard life till they got home after a season and made some money, get to stay home for a little while, play with the kids, look after the missus. But you were 2,629 nights in a row doing comedy, clubs all across America, and you had your cheese and kisses with you.
Yes, which is one of the reasons I think I was on the road. It worked out, and there were people who we were sort of the June and Ward Cleaver of comedy. We ate well, we worked out every day. A friend of mine, a comic, late in the game on those days, had said to his agent, "Look, I need to dry out. I need to eat right. I need to exercise. Give me a couple of weeks with Frank and Wendy." So.
You got that, did you? The cheese and kisses bit?
Yes.
The missus.
I played all over the world.
Not many do.
Well,
sometimes people say to me, "Yeah, can you make that decision, or is it, your wife?" And I say, "Oh, you mean the Minister for War and Finance?" All right. Company organization and the website, ladies and gentlemen. Your www.mentalhealthcomedian.com. Now, LinkedIn, Frank's on LinkedIn as well. And also the company on the Facebook, on the company organization Facebook page. The URL is there, facebook.com/the mental health comedian. And then there's all sorts of other links. And if you go to markbishopmedia.com, go across the top, it says shows, and just scroll down to the bottom. You're going to see the Mark Bishop Show. You'll go on, there's a bio there, Frank's bio, photographs, and all of these links you can play, and this show again, and also really have a good listen to one of his TEDx talks. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. I believe you are doing something exciting at the moment. You with another grinder by the name of Mark Weiss. What are you doing with Mark?
Mike Weiss, actually. And
Mike Weiss, actually, yes.
Yes, we're doing.
Mike. Sorry.
We combine forces. He's a LinkedIn marketing expert. He does all my LinkedIn marketing, and I speak, obviously. And so for speakers, we have a program where we have our folks create 2 newsletters a month for 3 months, and we guarantee 1,000 subscribers to those newsletters. And that's what we are in the process. We did it once before. We're doing it again. And we help people, they improve their profile, and we teach them that, you need to be active on LinkedIn, you need to respond to comments, you need to share and like, and, because LinkedIn likes activity, the algorithm does. And so the more activity you have, the better your newsletter will do, and the more subscribers you'll get. So that's where we are. That's what the program is all about. Plus all kinds of other freebies that come with it.
Well, I had come across him in other areas, and he's a bit of an expert in what he does, Mike Weiss. So you've combined with him. So let me understand. Do I have to write that newsletter, or that's all done for you, or how does that work?
You would write the content, or you can give them. I give them my curriculum for my, let's say, TEDx coaching or Make Money Speaking. They pick up, a line or two from the curriculum. They use ChatGPT-4 and create a newsletter, and then they've got a graphic artist who puts the photographs in to kind of break up the text, a link to my lead magnet, a link to my calendar, and of course I proof it, and
Right.
then it goes up twice a month. And last April it launched, middle of April, and I think now I have 4,300 subscribers.
Wow.
I just about pooped my pants. And my part of it is to help the speaker, pick a lane, figure out who your ideal clients are, connect with those people on LinkedIn so that they'll want to, sign up for your newsletter. That's kind of how it works.
Very smart. All righty. So listen, I've been running your email across the bottom. People can also contact you for that. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. All right. Well, look, Frank, wonderful work you're doing to help others. And congrats on your many years of performance. You're a professional entertainer and a great comedian, from what I've heard anyway. And good luck with this new business with Mike. I hope it's very successful for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for working so hard, Mark, to get us back on.
It'll be fine. Thank you, Frank. God bless. Take care now.
See ya.